Hey, it's Warren Huart here. Hope you're doing marvellously well. I'm here in Eagle Rock?
Eagle Rock.
Yes, I got it right. I used to live actually down the street in Silver Lake, so I kind of know the area. And there's a really good Polish restaurant.
Right across the street. Yeah.
Called Polka.
Yeah.
My wife's Polish, so we go there. It's wonderful. And it's cheap.
I haven't actually been there yet.
It's really, really affordable. Anyway, this is Joel Jorgensen. Joel and I made a record together 5 years ago?
5 years ago, yeah.
When he had a band called Angels Fall, which you can, there must be a site and music.
Yeah, it's still available on iTunes.
Yeah. It's really good. You'll like it. He's very talented. He's not only a guitar player, a singer, he's a songwriter, of course. He writes in every genre. He is currently doing what would you call your project?
I'm doing a folk project.
album.
Yeah, folk album. Just sing.
It's great. No, I've heard it. It's amazing. The thing about great artists and great writers, and which Joel is, you can turn yourself to anything. I mean, think of the Beatles. What's the genre of the Beatles? You know, they're a pop rock band. I mean, they've got Helter Skelter on one end, and then they've got Love Me Do on the other. And I believe that's what Joel's like. He's a talented guy who can turn himself to anything. Mm-hmm. And the reason why we're here is Joel. What's the best way of saying it? It sounds a bit corny, but he's in the trenches. This is what he does every day. He writes and records. He makes a living at doing this, and I know that's what people want to do. And I wanted to come to him because he will give us an idea of what it's like to actually record on a daily basis and the tools of his trade. So if you don't mind, I'd like to be geeky.
Yeah, let's geek out.
So this is the M Audio. It's the Sputnik. What can you tell me about it?
The M Audio Sputnik is a large diaphragm tube microphone.
Oh, it's tube.
Yeah, and I've had this since 2011, and I've used it for vocals. It's really good for vocals and acoustic guitars. Basically anything that's acoustic, it works really well for. And it's got like a 10 dB cut on it, so if your signal's pounding pretty hard, you can cut that. And it's got a little scoop on it too, so you can scoop all your low end out.
Fantastic.
So, and then it's also, you can use it directional, or you can go 360 with it. It's got a switch on the back. So this works really well for acoustic guitars. And if I really want to get a really, really good acoustic sound, I'll use this AKG P170 mixed with this and just a couple different placements. And these two here work really well together. So this is kind of between this and the SM7B, this is basically my workhorse mic. I use this on pretty much everything if I need to do something quick. For vocals, quick vocals, this works great. For rock vocals, it can handle a lot of pressure from my voice.
Nice.
And when I want to scream and get that real growl out. So, and if I want to get a really nice, sweet vocal, something really full for me or for somebody else, if I'm tracking them here, I'll use both of these together.
Nice.
I'll run them side by side and make sure they're not getting any phase issues between them.
Right.
In the track, just test it out first and do like a 60-40 blend between 60-40 here. And this has such a round sound, and this has more of that kind of a crisp sound, like what you'd want for acoustics or just right off the voice. So you get kind of a warm growl between the two of them. You can really get a lot of sizzle off the voice. So for a home studio, like these three mics they're pretty much my go-to for what I need to get done.
Which is great, because I'm always telling people, you don't need a huge amount of mics, especially if you're working on your own. I mean, one really great dynamic, a small diaphragm condenser and a large diaphragm condenser, and it's covered everything. How much was this when you
I think you can pick it up now for around $400.
That's awesome.
Yep.
That's really good.
Yeah, and then there's about $300 I think for this SM7B.
That's great. And then what about
this? Is I believe they're on sale right now. They're about $100. The Guitar Center, I think I just saw them go on sale, so which is not bad.
That's pretty awesome.
Yeah, so I mean for vocals, and that pretty much covers it.
He's recorded stuff for me when I've been working on tracks, and he's done overdubs, and I've sent him stuff, and it's always come back sounding amazing. And this is the equipment he uses. So you're running Pro Tools, is that correct?
Yep, running Pro Tools 10 and 11.
So do you have them on different computers? Is that the two screens?
No, this is the main monitor right here that I have where I can do all my mixing or do all my editing and everything like that. And then I'll run all my plugins over on that side just to have a little more space to work at. I mean, you can work it. I think you have a monitor like this. It's really, you can work on it just like that. But if I'm going to be mixing something, I try not to have this monitor going. I try to run it over here so I'm not actually looking at it while I'm mixing, because I feel like if I'm looking at the monitor while I'm mixing, I'm thinking too hard about what I'm doing. So
That's good. I like that.
So yeah, I hook everything up. I hook all these this MIDI controller up to volume levels, and I mix right through here. So
you do?
Yeah,
that's fantastic.
It's the easiest way to do it on, on a small
Really? I
budget.
love
you
that.
know?
No, that's great. So you're using this like a little mini mixer.
Yeah.
That's
So
fantastic.
if I'm having a problem getting a mixer, I know that it could be better, or I want more of an organic sound when I'm automating, then I'll use that. So that works.
I've never seen anybody do that. It's fantastic.
Well, that's, you know, use them for. So
Good thinking.
that's what they're supposed to be used for.
I know, it's great. And
So-
then the little Samsons. Do you
Yeah,
like these?
I've had these since 2004. No, yeah, 2004. I've had these since 2004.
11 years on these. Is
Yeah, 11 years. That would probably be my next big upgrade. Would be probably a pair of like Yamahas.
Right.
Yeah, some NS10s would probably be the good
Right,
go-to.
well, these probably have a great little bottom end for a small.
They do, yeah.
They're powered.
Yeah, they're powered, and they have a low end and a high end EQ on the back, so you can EQ out. And I have a little sub running out the bottom. The EQ in these, the low end tends to rumble a little bit, so I took most of the low end out of these and then run a sub.
But I think what's important for us to know is that it doesn't matter whether you've got really expensive speakers, mid, cheap, doesn't matter what they are. If you know your speakers,
Yeah.
that's better than anything.
Yeah.
And the fact that you've had these for 11 years, you know how to make music sound good on these.
Yeah,
Your
you have
music-
to listen. Like that,
Right.
everybody always says, listen, 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 and that's like one of the most important things.
Right.
You can mix something on a pair of headphones if you really know how to listen. You know,
Sure.
A/B them to a song that you really like, that's your favorite track, and
Sure.
maybe you're writing something like that, or you're trying to make something sound like that. A/B it, and you'll get really close.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
That's
Won't take you all the
fantastic.
way, but it'll get you really close. You know?
Close enough for jazz, as they say.
Close enough, yeah.
Basically, the way Joel's got this set up is this is just everything's at his fingertips or at his feet. And if you go down here, he's got his guitar pedals set up. What have you got set up down here?
So I have a Dunlop volume pedal, which I use sometimes because I only have one amp in here. I use that sometimes for tone control. A tuner, EP booster, which gives more low end and actually expands the sound a little bit, so you can get a little more of a brilliance out of it.
I can't remember. Somebody else I know has one of those.
Yeah,
They're
it's-
amazing.
It's fantastic. And then a 10-band EQ from MXR. This works really great for getting the signal in before it goes in. I like to do some scoops on a lot of the tones because I get a lot of low end in this small place. So try to scoop it out a little bit up
Great.
to like 125 or 200, and then do my personal taste. This little octopus for some leads. I don't use this quite enough as I probably should. Most of the time I end up using delays out of the box, but sometimes if I'm going for more of that raw sound and I want kind of a little more chaos in the track off the guitars, I'll use this. So that works really well. Noise suppressor and just a couple boosters. I'll use them if I just want to pump something a little bit. Like if I'm using a clean setting on my amp,
Right.
I'll hit that and it'll give me just a little bit more tone, a little bit more crunch. So
Great.
that works really well.
Yeah,
So
I've heard
that-
good things about these as well.
Yeah, they're great. And I think it was a gift from one of my guitar players, someone I was working with. So
Nice.
very cool. And then we go over to here, and this is the part that Warren, when I was working with Warren, always talked about getting your chain straight. Make sure that, because your chain, whatever is going through that's what you're going to be getting. So I'm using the Apollo UAD2. This is probably, I've used all kinds of different DAWs, and this is probably the best one that I've picked up and used so far.
I haven't got one yet, but I know they make a small one that you can use with your laptop, and they come with the plugins and everything. You have
Yeah.
the plugins.
This comes with the plugins. Yes.
I hear amazing things about this.
Yeah, the processing out of this is the converters. I think I was using the Apogee before,
Right.
and I was using the Duet, which was perfect for what I was using.
Great.
And
Great
I decided that I wanted to upgrade because I wanted more inputs, and so I upgraded to this. And yeah, the sound is amazing. You get a lot of top, a lot more room.
Oh, I hear great things. My friend Dave McCracken, who's a very successful guy in England, when he comes over here to work with artists, he'll travel with a laptop and one of those
Yeah,
and makes records.
that's all you need.
He
That's
makes
all
a
you
record
need.
with a laptop and an Apollo. So
Scary, huh?
yeah, and then I mean, it's the world is changing, but that's what's so great about it.
I love it because you can use your chain, or inside you can do real time recording through an actual plugin.
Right.
So you get a pretty close sound.
Yeah,
you
I think
know?
he just turns up with that. Doesn't even bring a mic pre.
Yeah, if you load it up with all the plugins, it works really great. It works great already. It comes with I think $5,000 worth of plugins. So
That's fantastic.
yeah,
And then you have
I
this,
recommend it. So it's a little DBX. This is a compressor gate. Universal Audio, a twin 710 Infinity. This, I've been Universal Audio since I started. I love all their compressors. I love the sound for me, especially doing rock music. Get a little sizzle out of them. And they're crunchy. I like them. Or you can fatten them up. This one's really great. I know these have been around for a while, but for me, I like to use a 50-50 on the between the transistor and the tube, or solid state or tube. So you get warm, but you also get a little action out of it. So, and drive it pretty hard going out, and then keep it pretty warm coming in. So basically, signal goes into here, goes into here, and then it goes into here.
That's fantastic.
And everything goes in. And then this is my little patch bay. I can either pass between all these different parts, or I can just run straight through. So right now, I have in the closet over there, I have a cabinet. So I have the cabinet mic'd, or then I can run 2 or 3 different microphones at the same time if I want to patch it all together. So, and then everything will be running through this. So only doing one channel at a time here. You're capable of doing more than one, which I've done, but generally for what I do, because I'm the only one working here building the tracks, it's just one or two through at the same time. So
just switch your input, vocal mic, guitar,
boom, or two mics, doing that. So yeah, it works pretty well for what I need.
That's fantastic. And then what amp do you use? What guitar amp is it?
I'm using a Triple X. So for recording guitars, I like a real tone. I've used like the Pod and the Pod XT, and I've used plugins and things like that. But I found plugins for me are a little bit easier to use for layers and things like that. But for the meat and potatoes of your track, you want something that's real moving air. So I use a Triple X, and it's 3 channels, and the Clean, Crunch, and Ultra. And this amp in particular is really, really, really hot amp. So you can kind of see all of my settings. My gains are barely even on for this. You're going to overdrive this if you really want a good metal sound. But for the most part, I keep it in the tone area. So my clean's all the way down. And then if I want just a little punch, I'll use the AC boost. So with that, and then back here I have the cabinet mic'd up in a little ISO booth, and so I can get all the tones that I want.
So I just saw this. Tell me about it.
This is a Dean 6-string banjo. I picked up this not too long ago, and it's really great if you're doing country music, or for me, layering this pretty low underneath an acoustic guitar adds a special little element to the sound too. It's a really interesting technique. Gives you some interesting mids to make that sound pop through. So I really like this. And the other thing is I'm a guitar player, and I've never really been a banjo player.
Yeah.
But I really like the sound when I'm doing country music. So for a quick banjo sound, this is the way to go, because it sounds just like a banjo.
But it's 6-string, tuned like a guitar.
Yeah. So if you decide to pick up one of these, just make sure you get it set up, and you'll be good to go.
No, you were saying you changed the head on it?
Yeah, I changed the head on it, and basically when I got this home, there's some things that you can do to actually make these guitars sound better and get more resonation. So I took off the head, took the whole thing apart, and underneath here where this tone ring is here, you pop everything off, head off, and you basically just sand down the top, because there's all kinds of stuff on there. There's like glue and stuff from when they were making it that's on there that causes tone problems. So sanded down the top, put the whole thing back together, put a new head on it, and tighten it up real good. And
is it electric?
It's an electric acoustic.
Oh wow!
So you can get a nice blend that way too.
That's fantastic.
Cool. So yeah.
And how much was it?
It was about $280 after tax.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, so simple things like this can make such a big difference in a home situation or in a big studio, whichever.
Oh, I'm going to get one.
Yeah,
I wouldn't spend thousands of dollars on some fancy banjo, because I'm just a guitar player. This to me is like perfect. $200-300 to
yeah, and you can get that really cool arpeggiated sound picks and things like that to go over the top. So for country music, that works really well.
And then let's go for show me that Kalamazoo we were talking about earlier.
All right.
You picked this up at Guitar Center, you said?
Yeah, I also picked this up at Guitar Center about a year ago. This is a 1938 Gibson Kalamazoo. And this was made back during the war. And the interesting thing is, in that time, those guitars that were made, they were all made by women. Right. Gibson didn't want anybody knowing that they had women working, because they didn't have any men. They were all at war.
Yeah.
So they hired women to do it. And Gibson didn't want anybody to know that women were making their products.
Really? That's crazy.
So they changed the names to Kalamazoo, but it's still a Gibson guitar.
That's
and the
crazy.
funny thing about that era is They said everything's like a 40-year era.
Yeah.
Those were probably some of the best guitars ever made.
Yeah, probably a lot of attention to
A
detail.
lot of attention to detail.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so this is a really great jazz guitar. I've used it on folk. It's really cool for again blending, or if you want it to be your main guitar, just if you want to get that interesting kind of
Right.
really interesting sound. This is the best way to go using this acoustic.
I had a mid, like a 42, 43 Epiphone, and this might be the same. It didn't have a truss rod
Yep, no truss rod.
because they needed the metal for the war effort. They were building tanks.
Yeah, so this, I initially bought this because I wanted it to be a stage piece. I could play it on stage, but once I started playing it more, and then the more research I did, finding out that these kind of guitars are rare because they have no truss rod, and generally when you find them, they're only art pieces. They're not
Right.
actually used for recording anymore because
Right.
they've warped so bad. So I figured I might as well keep it here.
And you told me earlier it's very inspiring.
Yeah. It's I wrote my EP with it. Sometimes when you're sitting at home and you're using all the same instruments all the time,
Sure.
just to peak, go buy something new. Go buy a new plugin. Go buy something that even if it's inexpensive, something that'll help you write, something that will help inspire you to keep going and keep creating. I mean, for me that works because I'm always here, always working.
I'm going to change completely the subject 'cause I'm just thinking to myself because we could go on for guitars forever because we're both guitar players. But when you're building tracks, you're doing drum stuff. What are you using Easy Drummer or Addictive, or you placing them in by hand? How do you do it?
I think drums have probably been my biggest nemesis over the years.
I think that's a good question. Then. That was a good question.
Drums have been my biggest nemesis. I've purchased all the programs, Addictive Drums, Easy Drummer, BFD. I've tried everything. I've tried samples, and it just came down to just what I personally liked.
What do you personally
What inspires me? I ended up making my own drum sounds.
Right.
And using them in battery. Battery.
Oh, in battery, right.
Yeah. So if I'm writing something really quick and I don't want to sit and do this, I want something a little bit faster, I'll use Easy Drummer.
Right.
The new Easy Drummer is amazing. You can just hit left and right, and you can get your drum and your kick, and then it'll bring up all this different MIDI, and you can pull from that. So it can be if you're working really, really fast and you need something really quick, that works really well. But for the long term, when I'm doing a mix, now I use my own drum sounds because that just for me.
And are you placing them in by hand? But you're triggering them from battery.
I use them in battery, and then I go in and use not BFD. I use drum. I can't even.
Drumagog?
Yeah, not Drumagog. I'll use Drumagog if I'm replacing.
You've used them all.
Yeah, I'll use Drumagog if I'm replacing. I mean, I used SSD too, like triggers, but
Wow.
But it just came down to just doing it by hand.
Right.
Doing it by hand. I'm trying to think of the program right now, and it can Beat Detective.
Right.
I'll use Beat Detective, and even in Pro Tools, like Beat Detective is amazing. You can build your drum kit by hand, and if you don't like how it's working, you can go into Beat Detective and load everything in, and you can move it around if you want to have a little more feel than just money. So.
Oh, I see. So you go in there and you adjust the groove factor, so it pulls it in and out.
Yeah. So it'll pull all the samples around, just like if you're editing a full kit, anyways.
Interesting. Now.
So, there's all kinds of
So you're using it in
techniques.
reverse. I like that.
Yeah,
That's cool.
All kinds of techniques, blending techniques. You can throw it over the top, or you can,
Necessity is the mother of invention.
Yeah, chain it through reverbs. You can do all kinds of things to make it sound really good.
So electrics, what's your sort of go-to electric guitar?
I have two go-tos that pretty much cover all my bases. G&L Legacy. This is basically for all my Fender tones. You can get just about everything through it. So this works really great for country or for leads. If you want something to punch through, if you're doing something you want to layer with acoustics, this is really good. So
Fantastic.
And then for tone, I got this Epiphone Black Beauty, and then I put Gibson pickups in it.
Nice.
And plenty of tone. If you want your rock tone, this will get it done for you for leads. If you want that, you really want to dig in and get some good classic tones.
Great.
You really get it out of a Gibson. So this guy's really great. And then if I'm doing straight metal, like double picking, and I want that more chugga sound, I'll use this little LTD here with this the EMG pickups. So this gets all the chunk.
These got super fat strings on it.
Yeah.
What do you choose? Is that a C?
These are 60s.
Is that a C?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Tune to C. Now we're talking.
Yeah, that's a C, which is actually pretty high for these strings. Sometimes they're down to B,
Really?
B and A. So yeah,
Wow.
if I want to get a nice fat layer.
Right. I love that you use that PV amp. I want to try one out now. I've always been a fan of PV stuff. I grew up on PV stuff in England. My first real amp was a classic 65.
Okay. Yeah.
So I've always been a fan. I was telling you earlier, I used a PVT 40 as my main bass. Sounds amazing. And you pick one up for like $300.
Yeah. Yeah, those are, I think the bass sound, I think, is the next important thing in your track. You know, for me, it's drums, then bass, and everything else you can
What do you use for bass?
I use a really cheap bass,
actually.
So do I. Good. Yeah,
What's your really cheap bass?
I have an Ibanez Geo. It's like a sound gear. I picked this up for like $75 a guitar.
Nice.
And I went and had it set up. And I'm not I'm not a super bass player. It's not something that I'm into.
Right.
But I'll definitely hire somebody like Ben Jinder or somebody like that to come in and play bass for me. But if I'm just doing it at home, I'll just do it here. It's set up. The tones are all good. And then I'll run it through, I'll EQ it, I'll leave the EQ the same, I'll turn up the EP boost so I can get a little more fat in it, and then run it through my chain.
Well, thanks, Joe. I really appreciate it.
No problem, thanks. I really appreciate it too.
This was fun. We should do more of these.
Yeah.
We might come back and have you open up a session maybe.
Okay, that'd be great, yeah. Do a quick little walkthrough of what I do.
Yeah, I think that could be really cool. You could describe how you did the drums and the bass, because it's funny, everybody does drums a different way, especially guys like you and I, which are guitar players and not drummers.
Yeah, we're very creative.
Yeah. I mean, I'll sit there and like program and play it and then edit it, and sometimes I think it's quicker and sometimes I think it's slower. Yeah. I don't really know.
I think it just depends on what you're writing. You know, it depends on the artist you're working with. If you're doing dance music or something like along those lines that just needs to be 4 on the floor, then program it. But if you're working with an artist and it needs to be real sounding, then keep it real, keep it organic, you know?
Yeah. Exactly. Well, thank you ever so much.
Yeah.
We've got a great tour there. We see how it's like, frankly, in the real world, and that you can make great sounding music with all kinds of cool equipment. And I love the fact that it's all just here, where there's guitar pedals there, triggering his keyboards and his drum sounds up here. You know, everything is just intuitive and close, and he gets great sounds, and he's got a great collection of equipment, and you know, that's really the thing to take from this. Please subscribe. Go to the email list at producelikeapro.com and you'll get files to download and edit and behind-the-scenes footage and drum recording and piano recordings and all kinds of fun stuff. So, once again, thank you very much.
No problem. Thanks again.
See you soon.
Yeah, we'll see you soon.
And thanks for watching.